Now, in this tutorial, we're going to walk through drawing the classical moldings. This is the alphabet. So, if you've got a copy of the American Vignola, A Guide to the Making of Classical Architecture by William Ware, you'll want to pull open this to page 7 or plate number 1, which deals with the moldings specifically. And we're going to go through this and learn how to draw each of these different moldings. In doing so, we're going to need a couple of tools for this tutorial. You can have your rolling ruler, a square, some pens. You may want a pencil. I'm using the Prismacolor Color Erase terracotta color. I'll also have a mechanical pencil here. And I've also have a circle template. You can use this. Some of the shapes that we're going to be making are fairly small, so this works a little bit better than a compass at this point, and a ruler. So let's get started. So with this, we're going to first set up our drawing, and by setting up our drawing, we are going to divide our paper. This is an 8.5 by 11 paper, and I'm going to use our square or my ruler, and what we're going to do is we're going to divide it horizontally into 4 rows. Now, in doing that, if I go from the bottom of my paper, I'm going to create a tick mark here every 2 inches, starting on the bottom and going up. Okay, and now that I've done that, I'm going to go ahead and line up this edge here. I'm going to strike a couple lines. And this is just one of the ways you could go about doing this. So once again, we are creating divisions at every 2 inches on our 8.5 by 11 paper. And now we're going to create some columns here. We're going to start 1/2 inch from the side. Actually, we'll do 1 inch from the side. And we'll use that area right there to separate our moldings. We're going to organize them based on their morphology or their form. So this is going to act as space for my title for each of the different forms. Okay, once you've done that, we're going to go ahead and place a tick mark at every 2 inches. So in the end, we'll have 5 columns here going across the top. And I'm going to just add another tick mark here on the bottom. Make it easier as I'm lining things up. All right. Draw a vertical line for each of these. Okay, so at this point your paper should look like this. You should have four rows in the horizontal and 5 columns in the vertical, with a little space here on the side for our titles. So I'm going to grab my pen now. The first moldings that we're going to create are straight moldings. So I'm going to go ahead and label this. We've got our straight moldings. Next, we will have our convex moldings. Then we will have concave moldings. And finally, we will have compound moldings. Alright, so the first, we're going to start with the easy ones. Let's start with straight moldings. And in this exercise, we're going to create 3-dimensional view of these moldings. It's similar to these diagrams that are here in William Ware's, by adding a 45-degree line off of the moldings so that they have some 3-dimensionality to them. So we're going to go ahead and do that. So as we do this, there's a couple things that we should pay attention to. So the first one we're going to create is just a normal fascia molding. And so let's go ahead and write the name of this. So this is called a fascia molding, F-A-S-C-I-A, fascia molding. And the fascia molding, when we draw this, I'm trying to get a pen that's works a little bit better than some of these. Okay, this one's a little bit better. Now with this, we could go ahead and use our ruler if we want, but we're just going to freehand this. So the fascia molding is a straight molding. It's going to pop out a little ways, come on down, pop back in, and that's basically it. Now, to make this 3-dimensional, like we were saying, we're going to add a 45-degree line on each of these. And the side that's being cut, we're going to add some diagonal lines as well. So that it pops off. And last but not least, we're going to thicken our line weight where it's being cut, so we can see that molding in a much more pronounced fashion. Okay, so beyond the fascia molding, the next molding we're going to create is a raised fillet. It's similar to a fascia. So a raised fillet, F-I-L-L-E-T, raised fillet molding. Now with this, we're going to only pop it up for just a small area, and this area that is raised is usually a square. So if we dash that line through, it is a square in shape. So if we add our 45-degree lines on there, just as we did before, add some dimensionality to this. Raised fillet molding. And we'll add some verticals on there as well to show what is being cut as if this was a piece of wood. We'll grab our thicker pen to add thickened line weight there, and that is our raised fillet. Raised fillets are usually used to separate certain architectural details, such as separating the architrave from the frieze and the entablature, etc. Now, the next one we're going to do is very similar. It's just the inverse. It is a sunk fillet. And this is the same, but instead of popping out, it is going to pop in. We'll add our 45s on there. Add some diagonals to indicate what is being cut. And I'll thicken that profile up so we can see what's going on. And this is our sunk fillet. Now, moving on, we have next what is called a splay. S-P-L-A-Y. And a splay is really, it's as if you have a part of a fillet here. It is going to jog at a 45-degree angle, and then it will have another part of a fillet. So as we draw this with our 45s, and we'll do some diagonal lines to indicate what is being cut. Use our thicker line weight to emphasize that molding. There's our splay. Now we're going to get into the convex moldings. So with all these circular moldings, I want you to think of them as we're drawing a circle and it will be part of that circle. So with this first one, I'll grab my circle template here, and I'm going to use my 1/2 inch radius circle. Now as I draw this, the important thing that I'm going to do is, and you could freehand this as well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to dash in the circle. And some of you may have these little tick marks on the quadrants for the circle. Now, the first molding we're going to draw from the circle is called the ovolo. The ovolo comes from the Latin ovum for egg, hence why it is curved just like an egg. So we're going to only have a quarter of the circle be part of the molding. We're going to pop out and have a fillet on the top and on the bottom. And add our 45s there. So whenever we're doing these 45s, we're just mimicking the exact same profile that we just drew on the other side there. Add some 45-degree lines to indicate what is being cut. And we'll thicken up that line weight for the ovalo. There's our first convex molding. Now, if we continue our circle is going to grow in size. This one, we're going to still use the 1/2 inch. We're going to dash in the circle. And the top and bottom quadrant, we're going to dash in the line so that essentially we are seeing just half. We're cutting the circle in half. So for the next molding is called a torus. T-O-R-U-S. And the torus is a half round molding. So if we add some 45s there, take that up, we'll add some 45s to indicate what is being cut. And use our larger pen to indicate the line weight of the molding. So you can see we're incrementally increasing in size. So first we've got the 1/4, now we've got the 1/2. The next one is really, we're going to create a torus, a half mold, but when it's smaller and sometimes repetitive, it is called a bead molding. So I'm going to use a smaller circle on here. Let's go with like a 1/4 inch. And I'm going to do a series of these. All connected to each other. I'll do 3 of them. Sometimes we'll have a reed reeded motif in our classical designs. So these ones, just like before, are all half. So we're going to do our 45s on this. We'll add some diagonals to indicate what is being cut. Do our thicker line weight. And this is called the bead molding. Okay, so next, beyond this, we're going to continue So if we went quarter to half, now we're going to go 3/4 round. So if we grab our circle template, I'm going to use my 1/2 inch once again. We're going to dash in all the quadrants there. And what's going to happen is 3/4 of that circle will be solid. Then it's going to pop out, pop down again, pop up, pop over, and up. So oftentimes you'll see this detail as part of like a braided rope. We will add some 45-degree lines in here. And this is called the 3/4 round molding. Add our thicker line weight. Add some emphasis there. There we go. Last but not least, for our convex moldings, we have what is called the thumb molding. The thumb molding is, it's two circles put together, two curves, but basically what it is, we're not going to draw it completely accurately, but it's kind of an oblong circle shape that will come back down around. So if we were to dash in a circle, it is really two larger circles coming together. So we'll add some 45s on this. Okay, got some diagonal lines to indicate what is being cut, and we will increase the line weight on this. To indicate the thumb molding. Okay, so now we're going to transition now into the concave moldings. So we're still going to use the circle on a lot of these, but instead of popping out, we are going to pop in. So the first one is called the Coveto. Which in many instances is similar because we are using the same quarter round, but this time it is going to be the concave side. So I'm still going to use my 1/2 inch here. I'm going to dash in my circle. 3/4 of it, if you want to view it as 9 o'clock to 12 o'clock, that is going to be solid. We're going to have another straight edge on both sides. Add some 45s on this. Add some diagonal lines to indicate what is being cut. We can visualize this in 3 dimensions. And we'll add a thickened line weight to show exactly what is being cut. So the Coveto is only that 1/4 round, similar to the ovalo. Now you guessed it, if the torus was half bulging out, the next molding is called a half hollow, and it is because it is half of a circle and it's hollowed out. So we will dash in half of that. The other half will be solid. We'll go straight up and down. Add some 45s to give it some dimensionality to it. Add some diagonal lines there. And this is called the half hollow. And we will add our thicker line weight. To make that more clear. Now, after we've done that, we're going to move on to the 3/4 round. So if I grab my 1/2 inch again, this time, this is called a 3/4 round hollow. So I'm going to do 3/4 of it solid. Add a straight on either side. With our verticals. We'll add some diagonals here to indicate what's solid and what is void. And this is called the 3/4 hollow. Progressively increases. Add our thicker line weight, like we've done. Indicate what that profile is looking like. Now this next one we're going to create is called Scotia. Scotia is another word for shade, but with this one, this does involve 2 curves, or 2 different size circles in it. And the way that we're going to create this is we are going to use a larger circle. We're going to use the 3/4 round circle first on the bottom. And when I do this, I'm going to dash in these lines so you can see what is happening. But basically, starting at the bottom quadrant, going up to the one on the left quadrant, those there, that is going to be helpful for us as we do the next one, and I'll show you why that is. Okay, so there's our first one, and we're going to bring that bottom part down. Now, we used a 3/4 inch, so I'm going to reduce that ratio into a third, and so the next circle I'm going to draw is going to be a 1/4 inch circle. And so I'm going to line up that same area right here, that left-hand side quadrant, or if we're thinking about cardinal directions, that would be the west. And so I will take that up from that side until it hits the top there. So it will look like that. And then I will bring a vertical up from that. And so what that creates is a little area. So if the sun was coming down, it would create shadow under there, hence the name. So we start with that little curve, and then it goes to a larger curve as it comes back down around for the Scotia. And this is just one way of doing the Scotia. Sometimes it's a little more drastic with its proportions. Add some diagonal lines in there to indicate what's being cut. We'll add some thickness there. And that is the Scotia molding. Now the last one we're going to do is called a Conj. C-O-N-G with an E and a little accent on it. So this is created simply, and just to indicate, we're essentially creating a similar as the Coveto. We're only using a 1/4 round. So if I had my 1/2 inch here, I will indicate this. I'll continue the circle. And really what this is when a flat molding goes up and transitions into a curve. So we call this the Conj. I will indicate that that's 1/4 round. We'll add some diagonal lines here and thicken up that profile for the Conj. Oops, there we go. Okay, last but not least, we're going to create 2 compound molds. The first of which is called the Simorecto. Sima is wave, and it's an upright wave that we're creating. And then the other one will be similar, but this will be called a Sima reversa. Now to create this, we're going to use our 1/2 inch circle again. The Simorecto, I want you to think of it as if you've got an American Vignola indicates this as well. So right here, so the Simorecto, right, it's view it as a horizontal wavy line. The Sima reversa, on the other hand, is a vertical wavy line. And so we're going to I'll show you a trick on how you draw this to keep it straight in your mind. So if I've got my 1/2 inch here, I'm going to dash in 2 circles that are side by side each other. And I'm also going to dash in the halfway point as if we're cutting these in half on the horizontal. Okay, so with that, I want you to indicate where, on the first circle, where the bottom quadrant is. So that first, going from south to east, will be solid. And then on the second circle, that north quadrant, or the top one, going down to the west, that will be solid. So really, it's looking like a sideways S. I'll add a fillet on here and up here on the top. And so the Simorecto, or the upright wave molding, is usually used for a crowning element. So a crown mold. We'll see this as we draw the entablatures. But really, we only have a quarter round for the first circle and a quarter round for the second circle. That is our Simorecto. Add some diagonal lines to indicate what is being cut. And we'll thicken up that line. So we can better see that profile. So Simorecto, think of it as 2 circles that are side by side horizontally to one another. And the Sima reversa is the opposite. It will be 2 circles that are vertically stacked on one another. So as we create this one, we're going to dash in 2 circles. I will also dash in, cut them in half vertically. Now with that, if I place my circle template back on there, the bottom circle, I am going to start from the west and go to the north quadrant, or the top quadrant. And then the second circle, I am going to start from the bottom, or the south quadrant, and I'm going to go over to the east, or the right quadrant. So this reverse wave, you can see the wave is continuing in a vertical fashion. This would be a, if you continue this, it would be a horizontal sine wave. This is a vertical sine wave. And so with this, we'll pop out to the side, go vertical with it. On this side, we will duck back in and go down, and we'll add our 45s on this. Add some diagonal lines here. Indicate what's being cut. I'll also dash this in just so you can see it's still only a quarter round for those two areas. And last but not least, we'll thicken this up. This line weight. So we can really see that Sima reversa molding. Okay. We'll just add here our title at the top. This is our classical moldings. And there we have it. Our classical moldings organized by morphology or by their forms. We have our 4 standard straight moldings. We've got 5 of our convex moldings, 5 concave moldings, and 2 compound moldings. Thanks for joining. See you next time.